Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the backstory. If you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever I post a new video. Now ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the Odinga's family and ODM members of parliament are not reading from the same script. Why am I saying so? This is after Madam Ida Odinga flatly rejected an attempt by some members of parliament of ODM to bar some elders from central Kenya from visiting their home to condole with them. And as you can see on this video, there were elders that traveled all the way from Ndia, led by the Ndia member of parliament, to go and condole with the family of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Ndugu yetu, hiyo kazi tunaomba itaendelea. Bakiwa na hii mzee wetu hapa na Uhuru na bibi ya marehemu, sisi tunataka kumhakikisha sisi tuko pamoja na tutafanya kazi ile wanatakiwa tukiambia. Tunataka kuombea wale wameachwa kwa sababu tunajua hii mama wa watoto na watoto wake, tunataka kuwaombea tuseme dai dada ya gaidai gai bwana Murugu wewe henaga muoyo no henaga thayo no twaka thĩinĩ wa mũciĩ wa mũthuri mũtigaire ngai tha witũ tigĩte maũndũ manene thĩinĩ wa thĩ ĩno na gatũtigĩra ciana twaneana ciana cia Raila mwanake wake na airĩtu ake kũrĩa guothe mariumagaraga wĩtĩkagĩra kumagaragia hamwe nao ona nĩtwamũneana ngai tha witũ ciana icio ithiĩ na mbere kũhe mami wao gĩtĩo mamu wao arotuĩka gĩtugĩ kĩrĩa kĩratwaragwo na Raila na nĩgetha mamũiguage nĩtwamũhoera ngai tha witũ mũtumia ũcio wa ndigwa kumagia rĩu we nĩ ugĩte ibuku rĩaku atĩ atumia ndigwa nĩ aku mũtumia ũcio tuĩka mũthuri wake ũmũgitagĩre akiumagara na agĩthianga ona nĩtũrahoera arĩa nyina arĩa maratigirwo ona mũrũ wa nyina ti senator ngai tha witũ ndaratigirwo nĩgetha akorwo agĩtongoria bamĩrĩ ĩno ngai ĩno bamĩrĩ ĩno ya Raila tondũ ĩkoretwo ĩhetwo gĩtĩo kuma tene na tene rĩtwa rĩa Raila na nyũmba ĩno yake rĩtikanabĩnde tũkũrĩharĩrie na mbere matongoretio nĩ senator ngai tha witũ na mũtumia wa Raila ciana icio na arĩa othe aũkoo aya ona community na elders othe ajaruo othe ngai tha witũ mwĩtĩkĩre tũgitĩre mũtumia ũcio tũrĩ atha hamwe ithuothe tũkiuga thai thathaia ngai thai. May the peace prevail here now and forever and evermore. Amen.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, early in the day, there were some members of ODM who had threatened to bar Rigathi Gachagua and elders from Central Kenya from visiting the home of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
We heard yesterday that Gachagua and his team were supposed to pay homage to the home of Raila Odinga. We urge Gachagua, never, don't step in Bondo. Don't step in Bondo, as your statements are not very friendly to us as ODM.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, from that video, you're able to tell that these members of parliament had taken a headline stance against Rigathi Gachagua and these elders. And the main reason here is because of a video that leaked yesterday where the current governor of Nyeri had made some comments that they felt were demeaning to the family of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. But why am I saying that they are reading from different scripts? Because these members of parliament attended the former Prime Minister's burial, and during that burial, Mama Ida said one thing that I think Kenyans also need to understand. She gave a history of their life with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, how they've had their ups and downs here and there. And one key thing that she said that Kenyans needed to have picked, or the members of parliament needed to have picked, is the fact that she gave a narrative whereby she said that after living with a politician for all those years, there's one thing that she has learned, that in politics, there are no permanent friends and permanent enemies. And she advised Kenyans that when you're a wife of a politician, you need to do one thing, to inherit that politician's friends and not to inherit his or her enemies.
I know if you are to ask the spouses of these politicians down here, they will tell you the challenges are many and not easy to cope with. I learned that if you're a spouse or politician, inherit his friends, but don't inherit his enemies. Why do I say this? Because you'll be standing there, you'll be sitting there at home, thinking so and so is an enemy of my friend, my husband, because he belongs to a different political party or he comes from a different area. I tell you, you will be wrong. Don't inherit in his enemies, because tomorrow you'll find that those people that you thought were his enemies are his best friends, and you'll be left out. Be careful when you are handling his friends. Inherit his friends, but his enemies, let him deal with them the way he made them.
She said that in politics, it's the interest that matters, but friendship do change. One day someone is your friend, the next day he is your sworn enemy in politics. But it doesn't mean that you will forever remain enemies. And that is one thing that I picked, and these MPs should have picked. And I did not expect Madam Ida to refuse flatly not to receive these elders. And you know what these ODM members of parliament were trying to do, which I've talked about in the previous video, is that they've bought that idea or the mentality that was being spread across the country, whereby we're going back to our tribal cocoons and we try to mobilize people along the tribal lines. And when we do that, we lose focus, we lose sight of what the main objective is. And were it that it came from the family, were it that it came from the Odinga's family, were it that they're the ones who said that they were going to not accept any olive branch or any condolences from these families, then we would have taken it seriously. But these are members of parliament who, in one way or the other, they were close to the former prime minister. And the former prime minister was a very forgiving man. He never held grudges. So you'd expect that these guys who've stayed with him for all these years would have known better that this is what he stood for. And just like Gladys Wanga said, that in some situations they will always ask themselves what the former prime minister would have done. So in such a scenario, I would want to ask them, if they're watching, what is it that the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga would have done in this scenario? One, Raila would have forgiven. And two, what I know is that Raila would have even called Mutahi Kahiga and had lunch with him, just to show that he holds no grudge with him, and just to break the ice in a way that shows forgiveness. Because look at the journey of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. From the time he started being in politics, he shook hands with the former President Mwai Kibaki, Uhuru, and Ruto. And all these, at some point, were considered his sworn enemies politically. But you'd find that later, they get to dine, they get to shake hands, they get to dine together. And we, the common man, are the ones who felt aggrieved by all these actions. But what was he kind of teaching us? That in politics, just as I said, There are no permanent friends and permanent enemies. And all these politicians, as a common man, all these politicians will always give us something to talk about. Because to them, that is their game. That is what they enjoy when they bring confusion, when they try to bring the division. Because when there is division, just as I said in the previous video, that is when they thrive. They thrive out of division, not out of points or out of things that they are going to deliver or manifesto that they are going to deliver to the common man. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll keep monitoring what's going on in the political scene and we'll keep you guys updated. But if you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever I post a new video. Until next time, bye bye.